There's tea for two. We can still be friends.
Nightwolf number 13, Strings and Scales, part of the beta storyline. Part 1, the man who heard voices rain tapped against the rooftops of Jackson City, soft, constant, like a countdown. Inside a dimly lit warehouse, a man sat alone at a table, still, silent. In front of him, a puppet, dressed like a mobster. Pinstripe suit, tiny fedora, painted Glenard Vale, alias the ventriloquist. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The puppet did. In a rough, gravelly voice, "Tell him we move tonight?" Leonard nodded slightly. From the shadows, Nightwolf watched. "That's new," Bruce Parker muttered through comms. Nightwolf stepped forward. "You talk to toys now?" The puppet turned its head sharply. "Watch your tone." Nightwolf tilted his head. "Yeah, that's definitely not normal." The puppet snapped its fingers, and hidden mercenaries inside the warehouse revealed themselves. Gunfire erupted. Nightwolf moved instantly, rolling, dodging, disarming, fast, controlled, efficient. But the puppet stayed calm, too calm. "Break him," it said. Leonard Vale twitched slightly, like a string being pulled. The mercenaries pushed harder, but Nightwolf adapted. One by one, they fell. The puppet's voice grew louder. "No, stop, he's..." Nightwolf stopped in front of Leonard Vale. The man was shaking, eyes unfocused, controlled. "You're not in charge here," Nightwolf said. The puppet screamed. Leonard collapsed. Nightwolf grabbed the puppet, snapped its control device. Silence. Minutes later, police arrived. Leonard Vale was taken away, still muttering to himself. Destination, Ravenshade Asylum. Bruce's voice came through. "That one's going to be a problem in therapy." Nightwolf didn't respond. He was already gone. Hashar Part 2, The Killer Below. Jackson City was bleeding. 3 crime scenes all the same. Bodies torn apart, surgical precision mixed with animal brutality. Commissioner Daniel Mercer stood at the latest scene, grim. "This isn't human," he said. Detective Ray Kessler shook his head. "It is. It just doesn't feel like it." Nightwolf crouched near the ground, examining claw marks. "Sewer access," he said quietly. Mercer looked at him. "You sure?" Nightwolf already stood. "I'm always sure." The sewer's dark, wet, stinking of decay. Nightwolf moved carefully through the tunnels, listening, tracking. Then, a sound. Scraping, breathing. Something big moved in the darkness. A shape dropped from the ceiling, larger than a man, covered in scaled skin, eyes glowing faintly. A voice, raspy, broken. "You came to hunt me?" Nightwolf stepped forward. "Yeah." The creature lunged. Fast. Savage. Nightwolf barely dodged, countering with a strike that cracked stone walls. "This is insane," Bruce muttered over comms. Nightwolf fought back. Precision strikes aimed at pressure points, joints, weak spots. But the creature adapted. It hit harder, faster, angrier. During the fight, Nightwolf landed a scanning device into its arm. DNA readout began. He pushed back the creature and activated it. Data flashed. Curtis Jones, former wrestler, reptile-style performer, rare skin condition, metahuman gene mutation. Nightwolf paused. "You didn't choose this." Curtis roared. "I didn't ask to be this." The fight continued, but shifted. Nightwolf adjusted his approach. Less lethal force, more restraint. He outmaneuvered Curtis, disabling him with precision strikes and a final restraint net. Curtis collapsed, breathing heavy, still alive. Nightwolf stood over him. "It's over." Curtis laughed weakly. "They always said I was a monster." Nightwolf didn't respond. Police arrived shortly after. Curtis Jones was taken into custody. Commissioner Mercer watched him go. "What do we even call this one?" A news alert flashed later that night. "Killer lizard strikes Jackson City." Detective Kessler frowned. "Seriously?" Nightwolf stood on a rooftop above the city, watching the lights. "They always need a name," Bruce said. Nightwolf turned slightly. "Yeah." He disappeared into the night. And somewhere below, Jackson City kept breathing. But not safely, never safely. Nightwolf, Beta Project, Finale, the last role, part of the Beta storyline retcon. Finale, the man behind the mask. West Haven was bright tonight. Too bright. Neon signs, theater lights, a city that loved spectacle. Inside the Grand Meridian Theater, a premiere was underway. The crowd applauded as the stage curtain rose. A dramatic play, a tragedy, a performance about identity. Backstage, something was watching, something waiting to perform. A figure stepped into the spotlight without permission, slow, grinning. His body shifted like living clay, smooth, elastic, unnatural. The audience screamed. Security rushed in, but the figure raised a hand, and their bodies stuck to the floor like glue. The man bowed. "I was once an actor," he said softly. A pause. "Now I never leave the stage." Once, he was a struggling stage performer, a man who lived for applause, for recognition, for attention. Until an experimental substance, unstable, experimental polymer clay, changed everything. His body adapted, reformed, rewrote itself, and he became something else, something fluid, something endless. Putty. Now he returned to the spotlight, always performing, always reshaping himself into roles he thought the world wanted. Tonight's role was destruction. Nightwolf arrives. The skylight shattered. A black figure dropped into the theater like a shadow cutting through light. Nightwolf. "Curtains closed," he said. Putty smiled. "Ah, the hero." His body stretched, reshaping into Nightwolf's form, mocking him. "Tell me, am I convincing?" Nightwolf didn't respond. He moved. The fight erupted across the theater. Putty shifted constantly. Weapons, arms, tools forming from his body, changing shape mid-strike, a living stage prop of violence. "You think I'm a monster?" Putty said, laughing. "I'm just flexible." Nightwolf countered, precise strikes breaking apart his structure, forcing instability. But Putty always reformed, always returned, until Nightwolf switched tactics. He activated a high-frequency dispersal pulse from his gauntlet, a resonance designed to destabilize synthetic molecular cohesion. Putty's body began to break apart. "No, no, wait," Putty shouted. Nightwolf stepped forward. "No more performances." A final strike. The system overloaded. Putty collapsed into a mass of inert clay-like substance on the stage floor. Silence. The audience stared in shock. Nightwolf stood over the remains. "It's over." A faint whisper came from the clay. "Was I good?" Nightwolf paused. "No." Aftermath. Police arrived minutes later. The theater was secured, the threat contained, but not completely. As officers collected the remains, a small fragment detached, unnoticed, unimportant, alive. It slid through a crack in the floor, through pipes, through walls, and emerged later that night in West Haven. A new beginning, a smaller version, watching, learning, waiting. Hasher epilogue. Nightwolf stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. Bruce's voice came through the comms. "He's gone, mostly." Nightwolf nodded slightly. "Nothing ever really ends." Below, West Haven lights flickered. Something unseen moved between them. A new stage, a new audience, a new role forming. And somewhere in the darkness, a whisper of clay began to shape itself again. The end of the Beta Project, but not the end of Putty. World's Greatest Volume 3 Number 1, The Night Climber, part of the Beta storyline. Prologue. Something crawls in the dark. The city of Coastal City had always been close to danger, but tonight, it felt like danger had moved inside the walls. People reported strange shadows scaling buildings, claws scraping glass, a presence that moved between floors like it owned gravity itself. And at the center of the reports, a name whispered in fear, the Night Climber, a weak, scorpion-like demonic creature that fed on fear and height, lurking in tall structures, striking from above. Scene 1. The call. Inside a command chamber of the Onlookers Network, a warning signal blared. Hal Ashford Torch stood immediately. "This isn't street level," he said. Beside him, Princess Elena Cross, warrior, tightened her gauntlets. "I'll handle it." A third presence stepped forward from the shadows, a darker energy. "Nightwolf?" Hal glanced at him. "You sure you want in on this?" Nightwolf's voice was calm. "It climbs. I stop things that hunt." Elena smirked slightly. "Then let's go break a crawler." Scene 2. The skyscraper hunt. The target location, a 70-story corporate tower. Now abandoned, now crawling. Glass windows shattered from the inside. Something moved between floors like a living stain. The trio entered separately, each covering a different vertical zone. The green torch lit the lower floors in green energy scanning. Nothing on ground level, he said. Warrior moved through the mid-levels, blades ready. Then it's above. Nightwolf was already climbing, silent, focused, tracking claw marks carved into steel beams. The night climber appears. A scream echoed from the upper floors. Then a shadow dropped. A creature, twisted, scorpion-like tail, thin limbs ending in hooked claws. Its body shifted unnaturally, blending into darkness. It hissed. Not words. Fear. It feeds on height, Green Torch said through comms. It's strongest up top. Nightwolf responded. Then we take the top away. The battle, vertical war. The fight moved upward floor by floor. Green Torch created energy platforms blocking escape routes. Warrior cut through structural supports, limiting movement. Nightwolf pursued directly, never losing track. The night climber struck fast, leaping between walls, attacking from blind angles. It hit Warrior first. She blocked, but was pushed back. Annoying little thing, she muttered. Green Torch unleashed a burst of green energy, pinning it temporarily to a wall. Got it! But it broke free instantly. Nightwolf stepped in. No, you don't. He slammed it into the floor with precision force. But it shrieked, amplifying fear in the environment, trying to destabilize them mentally. Elena shook her head. It's trying to scare us. Green Torch tightened his fists, Badstrat final push. The trio coordinated instantly. Green Torch sealed escape routes with energy barriers. Warrior struck from the flank, forcing it into open space. Nightwolf closed in. It lives off fear, Bruce's voice came through comms. Don't give it any. Nightwolf paused. Then he moved without hesitation. A final strike, clean, controlled, direct. The night climber screeched, its body collapsing under sustained pressure. Green energy surged, steel bent, the creature fell. Silence. Aftermath. The building stabilized, emergency teams moved in, the threat was gone. Elena wiped her blade clean, cute, ugly, weak. Green Torch exhaled, another one down. Nightwolf looked over the edge of the skyscraper. City lights stretched endlessly below. It wasn't strong, he said quietly. A pause. It was waiting to grow. Hal frowned. You think there are more like it? Nightwolf didn't answer immediately. Then there always are. Epilogue. High above the city, something tiny crawled through broken debris left behind. A fragment, a surviving piece of the night climber. It slipped into a vent system, downward, deeper, away. Unseen, unstopped. Nightwolf stood on the rooftop long after the others left, watching, listening, thinking. The world didn't stop producing monsters. It just got better at hiding them. And he was getting better at finding them. The Grant Mercer Report number 2, Under the Wolf Shadow, part of the beta storyline. Opening segment, Grant Mercer. The studio lights of Jackson City News Network burned bright. Seated behind the desk, reporter Grant Mercer adjusted his notes. Calm, professional, focused. Good evening, Jackson City, he began. This is the Grant Mercer Report. Tonight we're discussing a city that seems to be changing faster than it can understand itself. A screen behind him flickered to images. Crime scenes, police tape, shadowed rooftops, reports of masked figures, headlines about Killer Lizard, Professor Sheep, and the Shadow Man. Grant continued. In recent weeks, Jackson City has experienced an unusual rise in metahuman-related incidents, organized crime activity, and vigilante interference. He paused, and at the center of it all, a name that keeps appearing in different forms. Nightwolf. Action, Segment 1, Interview, Max Jackson. The camera cuts, a rooftop cafe overlooking the city. Sitting across from Grant Mercer is Max Jackson. Calm, composed, careful. Grant begins. Max, you're one of the city's most influential figures, CEO of Jackson Industries. What's your perspective on what's happening out there? Max folds his hands. I think Jackson City is evolving. Grant raises an eyebrow. Evolving? Max nods. Crime adapts, so does justice. Faster than institutions can keep up. Grant leans forward slightly. And Nightwolf? A brief pause. Max smiles faintly. I think he represents that evolution. Grant studies him carefully. Some say he's dangerous. Max responds evenly. Some say the same about progress. A silence follows. Grant closes the interview. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Max nods. You're welcome, Grant. Segment 2, interview Detective Raymond Ray Kessler. The setting shifts. Inside Jackson City Police Department briefing room. Detective Ray Kessler sits across from Grant, arms crossed, tired, experienced, honest. Grant begins. Detective Kessler, you've been on the ground for many of these cases. What are you seeing? Ray exhales. I'm seeing chaos trying to organize itself. Grant follows up. And Nightwolf? Ray pauses, longer than expected. He helps, Ray finally says, but he complicates things too. Grant tilts his head. In what way? Ray leans forward. Vigilantes don't follow procedure. That means sometimes we don't know what we're walking into after they've already left. Grant nods. Do you trust him? Ray doesn't hesitate this time. I trust what he stops. A beat. Not always how he stops it. Segment 3. Interview Commissioner Daniel Mercer. Final segment. The Commissioner's office. Night City lights behind the window. Commissioner Daniel Mercer sits firmly behind his desk. Controlled. Authoritative. Grant begins. Commissioner, the public is divided. Some see Nightwolf as a protector, him as a threat. Mercer nods slowly. I understand both perspectives. Grant presses. Do you see him as a threat? A pause. Carefully measured. He operates outside the law, Mercer says. That alone makes him unpredictable. Grant continues, yet crime rates in certain districts have dropped significantly. Mercer doesn't deny it. I've seen the reports. Grant leans in. So what is Nightwolf to Jackson City? Mercer answers after a long silence, a symptom. Grant raises an eyebrow. A symptom of what? Mercer looks out the window. Of a city that can no longer contain everything inside it. Closing segment, Grant Mercer. Back in the studio, Grant faces the camera again. 3 perspectives, 1 city. Max Jackson sees evolution, Detective Kessler sees complication, and Commissioner Mercer sees a system under strain. He pauses. And somewhere in that system, Nightwolf continues to operate. The screen behind him fades to black. And the question remains, Grant concludes, is he saving Jackson City or changing it forever? End of broadcast.